What's up, everybody? Just got done watching a YouTube video. Very enlightening. Very good overall. There's that little guy. Here's people outside. So, just want to share. I'm going to share that video. So it'll be on a link below this one. It's time to choose. Well, it's been time. It's been that time to choose for a while now, and it's either them or it's God. And listen, I'm not trying to sound ultra religious. I'm not a religious person at all. I just abide by the only thing I know, and is that I am. That's it. I am. Because I don't know how to define myself, but through God. There's a number of ways that you can choose to define yourself. You can either define yourself through your accomplishments, through what you think success means, whether that means X amount of money made or X amount of home runs hit, X amount of stolen bases. You can define yourself by your works, by saying, I do this many good things a day. I do this many good things a month. I've done this many good things. But I choose to be defined by Jesus Christ. And the only reason I choose to be defined by Jesus Christ is because He's forgiving. He loves unconditionally. And all through truth. All through principles that you can start applying right now in your life. And you'll see the truth in them. Because you can sit there and say that you love God and you follow God and you follow Jesus Christ. And you don't do what He says to do. To better yourself, to better your consciousness, to better the only thing you know, which is you as a living man, then you're just simply honoring Him with your lips, and you're not going to reap any reward from above. You need to carry your cross. You need to sacrifice your sinful ways, whether that's through watching porn, whether that's through a lot of what people consider private, and they don't realize that they're only holding themselves back. Right? One of the biggest things with a lot of my friends, a lot of the people I've come across just throughout my experience, throughout my life, has always been lust, the lusting after the flesh. They're wanting to go out, and the only way they have a good time is if they end up with somebody in their bed, or if they end up, a certain level of drunk, or a certain level of fucked up, whether that be through drugs. Always the lusting after the flesh is what gets the spirit in trouble. And it's what I've been telling myself lately to overcome a lot of these sinful in ways that hold me back from being my best version is short-term sacrifices lead to long-term reward. Short-term sacrifices lead to long-term rewards. A sacrifice is when you're willing to give up something that you feel you don't either have to because of the present time or because you don't think it's going to affect anything in that moment. That's what sacrifice is. Sacrifice is simply you trading off something in the present moment that your ego genuinely wants. If you want that righteously and it's through God's work, you're not going to feel that guilt factor. You're not going to feel that weird feeling or that second intuition, or that intuition, kind of like that second feeling in your stomach telling you, like, should I really be doing this, or should I really be thinking this, or should I really It's a way to really self-cleanse yourself spiritually. Where I'm going with this is that this is entirely a spiritual war. You can either choose man's law or you can choose God's law. Either law you choose, I highly suggest you know your rights in each one because they are different. And if you don't know your rights as either in man's law, where you're your persona, you know, you're your name, you identify as your graven image, that's your license, your birth certificate, your social security number. If you're going to identify as that, I highly suggest you learn all the ins and outs of what that system is. Because once you learn, you're not going to want to be in it anymore. Because you'll see who your God is, and it's not the God of the Bible. If you want to follow the gods of the Bible and make him your creator and make him your God, there are certain laws you got to follow. Either way, you got to follow a law. And either way, you got to know your rights that that law gives you. You'll see that God's law is the supreme law. This is a law that makes sense. It's the law that propagates life. If you don't know your rights as a living man or a living woman, you don't have any. I'll repeat that again. If you don't know your rights as a living man or as a living woman, I'm sorry to tell you that you don't have any because you don't know them. It's important for you to know your laws as a living man or a living woman. It's coming to the time where if you don't know, you're going to continue to consent to a lot of these nasty orders that are coming down from nasty, driven, spiritually driven people. That's why this is a spiritual battle. They're going to continue and try to deceive you and use words to try and make you think that you have no out, to try and make you think that you have no choice. But their own words, they can't force you to do anything because then they become liable. And if you've seen the trend, they don't like being liable for anything. They look for ways to not have any sort of liability because then they're held 100% responsible, spiritually and physically. Which one do you think, when they know more about the spiritual world than you do, which one do you think they're more worried about? And that's why they exhaust everything before pushing anything to not hold themselves liable. Think about that. They can't force you to do anything. It's all by consent. If you continue thinking that you have no choice, continue thinking that way. But it's because you don't know. It's because you don't know your rights. I'm not talking about the rights in your Bill of Rights. I'm not talking about the rights, your constitutional rights. I'm talking about your supreme rights of being a living man or a living woman. I'm not talking about the rights that are dead rights, that are written down on paper based upon a person. You need to know what the difference of a living man or woman is or a person is. Are you a person or are you a living man or woman? It's coming time where you're going to have to know this, because if you don't know this, you're only going to go with the only thing you've known your entire life. And more than likely, that is a person. That is your persona. When you go with God, He makes you realize and come a little bit closer to realizing who you are only through Him. Because He gives you certain rights that He gives everybody. Because the only way through Him is through you. You aren't the creator, but you are His creation. So that alone should let you know that the only doorway in to Him is through you. They can't force themselves in. You can let them in, but they can't force themselves in. They cannot force themselves in. If they do try and force themselves in, at that point, they become fully liable and responsible. And let God deal with them. Let's let them experience God's wrath. I don't want to experience that wrath at all. So I don't force anything upon anybody. I try to motivate as much as I can to get people to a point where they realize they don't know. That they don't know their rights as a living man or woman, that they don't know the basic definitions of the words they use every day. Once you get someone to that point, they have a choice of wanting to know or a choice to continue living this lie. Don't make that choice. Once you feel like you do have a choice to know, at that point you're morally responsible and you're morally choosing. It's coming down time. It's either them or it's God. The God I'm talking about is the God of the Bible. Because the rights that he gives you, they cannot be violated. They cannot, and they will not. They will never force anything upon us, upon you, unless you let them. Unless you play by their persona. Unless you enter into a contract with them, which is exactly what all these orders, all these mandates, it's a contract. You agree to it, you follow it, you're entering into contract with them. You have no choice. You're playing by their rules. But you have a choice to enter into that contract. It's a very simple analogy. You go to a restaurant, a server comes, she takes your order. At that point, she has a choice to give that order to the kitchen to cook your food, or she can take that order and throw it in the garbage, and guess what? Your food's not going to come. That same analogy can be applied towards any order that any official, that any living man or woman in any fictional position in this world, any dead entity position in this world, which is any title, is dead. Nothing that is dead is more valuable than what is alive. You are the living man and woman. You are the most priceless thing in this world. Any title, president of, CEO of, those are dead entities. Those are dead titles. That doesn't mean shit to a person like me. It doesn't mean anything. You give meaning to that. It's just like a dollar bill. Doesn't mean shit to me. But because it means a dollar, it means worth to other people, they give meaning to that, and I use that to get resources. To me, it doesn't mean shit. So if someone wants to do something for me, I'd like to do something for them in return. That's priceless. That's action. You can't put price upon that. You can't. People think they can. There's a way we can function with fictional currency like we're doing now. But when it's manipulated and it's ran by people that only try to deceive and keep things from other people to further grow themselves and belittle others, that's a spirit right there. That's a spirit that's not very enlightening. That's a spirit of darkness. Because if it was guided by the spirit of light, we would outgrow the need to be a material sense of currency. We would operate in such a way daily that you would want to exercise and extort your daily energy that you are given every single day. in its most beneficial way possible because others are doing so. But because the collective has gone astray, you are swimming upstream. So it's harder. So you bend, but only through a certain line. I've reached that line. That's why I've came across a lot of information that I verified that I'm not putting into action. One of the most important pieces of information that you need to know how to put into action is the difference between man's law and God's supreme law. Get to know your rights, because if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. I'm not talking about your Bill of Rights. I'm not talking about your constitutional rights. I'm talking about your supreme rights of being a living man or a living woman. So if you don't know those rights, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to continue to live and fall further into that rabbit hole of the experience that you're generating from within. Take a little bit closer look at your experience. No one can force you to do anything. Now, if there's a lot of fear because you don't know who you are or what you're defining yourself through, so the Bible's there. So you need to dive into it. Because that alone is going to expel that fear. It's going to create a new type of fear. And that type of fear is going to turn into a way that it only exists because it's a byproduct of hate, and you hate evil. When you hate evil, you fear God. So get to know yourself. Know who you are. You can only know who you are to a certain extent. That's why I always tell people, I don't know who I am. And through me not knowing who I am, I try and get closer and closer to try and know who I am through God. If you think you know who you are already, I don't know what to tell you. You're only going to bind yourself even further and further, because some people, when you think you know something, there's no more room for knowledge. You know it. You know it. But thinking you know something and actually knowing something objectively, two different things. Know your basic supreme rights of being a living man or a living woman, and you won't have to worry about making excuses, fighting the flesh for anything. You're going to see and come to a realization that there's nothing to be afraid of, because the way in is through you. You can let others in, or you simply don't. It's that simple. I'm not going to lie anymore. I'm not going to continue compounding lies and saying that I have asthma to not wear a mask. Just simply going to say I can't wear a mask. They want to ask me why. I'm going to tell them because I choose not to wear one. If they want to ask me why, or if they tell me then we can't serve you, I'm going to ask them, why can't you serve me? And then they're going to tell me, because you're not wearing a mask. And then I'm going to say to them that, yes, I'm choosing not to wear a mask. You're choosing to wear a mask. So what's the difference? They're going to tell me, well, the difference is that it's an executive order that you have to wear a mask because of what's going on. My simple response is going to be, the order that they're giving you to wear a mask is a contract. You're choosing to contract with whoever is giving you the order. I can clearly see you're not bothering looking up who the order is coming from or why. And I'm choosing not to because I saw who it's coming from and why. And my contract is not with any living man or woman. My contract is with God. with Jesus Christ. And if they still choose to refuse to serve me, that's fine. I know that it was meant to be that way. That it was meant to be that way. I can't do anything else. I cannot lie. Both times I've used it about the asthma, I felt horrible because it's just compounding. I don't feel better than them because those people don't know. And I'm just another one lying to them. I'm no better than the ones that are already lying to them about why they should be wearing a mask. Still lying to them. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it anymore. If they choose not to serve me, that's fine. But I'm going to ask them why they're not serving me, and I'm going to get them to at least come to a point where to realize that, look, you're choosing to contract with whoever's giving you that order. No one can force you to do anything. Just like I can't force you to serve me. I can't force you to serve me. Just like they can't force me to wear a mask. You need to justify where those orders are coming from and why. Because if not, you're entering into a contract blindly. And when have you ever signed a contract blindly? When have they ever told you to sign somewhere and you did this as you were signing? It's the same thing. Get to a point where you tell yourself you don't know who you are. You continue living by that graven image, you're going to fall by that. That's why God says, don't worship any graven images. Don't make any images of what's in heaven or below. Don't make any images of it. The world is shifting and it's going one way. And it's not God's way. You're going to continue going with the world, which you're going to have to make an adjustment. Big adjustments coming for everybody. For people who want to follow God as well. Because we're slowly going to get pushed out of the system. By God's grace, we'll be saved. But there's going to be those that ignorantly and through your ignorance, through your lack of knowledge, you'll perish. When you feel like you have a choice, at that point you're morally responsible. Are you going to further get to know yourself so you know your rights? Or are you going to continue thinking you know yourself and continue thinking that you know your rights when you don't? Love everybody. If you feel like this has helped you, share it. I don't know what else to say because we're coming to a time where people are legitimately believing that other people, other creations of God can tell another creation what to do. And to me, there's nothing more insane than that. So get to know yourself through God, through Jesus Christ, through the God of the King James Bible. If you don't know where to start, I started at John. I started in the book of John. I started with Jesus Christ, with God's, when he chose to manifest in flesh and bones. I chose to start with the closest people that were there through that book. The book of John, the book of Matthew, the book of Luke. Read all those. Read them. And don't read them like a novel. Don't read them like a fairy tale. Read it like a law book. You don't understand something, stop right there and think about it. And read it again. I can't. There is no worth in trusting anything I say. Unless you go and look it up for yourself. Unless you start applying these things in your life after you look them up for yourself. I'm only serving as an instrument to get you to the point where you can say, I don't know. I don't know my basic rights as a human being, as a living man or woman. I don't know who I truly am. Because the only the only thing I think I know about myself is defined by X, Y, and Z. It's either defined by your success, it's defined by others, it's defined by achievements, by whatever. And the only thing it's not defined by is your creator. And he very clearly tells you in that book how to define yourself. So you come closer to know exactly what this existence allows you the rights to have freely. The free will that it is unleashed through those rights. Because you think you're free and you don't know your rights as a living man or woman, think again. Read those books. They'll help you. Love you guys. Stay with God because God is truth and truth is love. Love you, fellas.